Indeed. I actually, this one is actually made with the with an espresso blend.
Okay. Am I going to be bouncing off the walls after this?
No. It's not made. It's not made the espresso way, so it's not like concentrated. Mm-hmm. The espresso blend is basically just like a mix of like 3 different kinds of coffee. So it has like a little bit of like a darker bitter bite to it, but with plenty of flavor.
I must say, I always get tons of stuff done on Tuesday afternoons after we record, just because I never drink 2 cups of coffee back to back.
I have literally gone on record for myself and my streaming friends. I'm like, I need to be your coffee ninjas. Mm-hmm. I need to be your coffee ninja. Like, I know my stuff. I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I was literally on a friend's stream last night, and she's like, I don't know why I'm not steaming the milk right. I want less foam. And I'm like, well, how much air are you putting in it? I'm going technical barista coffee term, and I'm helping them out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Just do a little, what'll it be called? It'll be,
Donald's Coffee Kitchen.
Brewing it up with Don the Third.
You remember I'm actually the third.
I do remember that you're the third.
Hey, all right. Awesome.
It's because of Ender's Game. When people are a third, I remember.
That's fair. That's more than fair. All right.
You third. Okay, go ahead.
And on that note, what's going on, everybody? This is the General Geekery Podcast.
Woo!
Yes, the podcast where we geek out about everything we love to geek out about, with no remorse, no regrets, and with all the enthusiasm in the world. I went a little bit Michael Buffer on that one.
Yeah. This intro brought to you by the FIFA World Cup.
Nice.
Oh.
As always, this is Donald Kaczynski the Third, as Hannah has been so helpful in pointing out. Your resident coffee ninja by day, actor, gamer, streamer by night, and as always, we've got at the left side of the table, or right side, depending on which side you're seeing this from, figuratively. We got Hannah Kubiak, the Undertaker by day, the Dice Slinger, gamer, theater professional, and artiste by night.
Hello.
Yes. So Hannah,
yes.
What do we got on the docket for today? What are we talking about?
Right now we're doing a part 2 follow-up episode. I'm going to get out my source material, and I want you to tell me what you think we're talking about.
Okay, this is actually a first reaction thing. Hannah hasn't told me what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, so it's okay. So,
do I have to close my eyes, or?
No.
Okay. Oh, what?
All right, look at these both and tell me what you think we're talking about.
Okay, so we got the Book Thief.
The Book Thief and
Fahrenheit.
451. Fahrenheit 451.
451. I'm trying to remember what episodes we've done.
Yeah, this is a callback to episode 7, so...
Alright, okay, that is really far back.
That's a... Do they call it a deep cut? Am I using that correctly?
I think?
Maybe? I don't know.
Deep dive, deep cut.
Yeah.
Alright, hold on, I'm taking a look into our list of episodes.
But while Donald's thinking, if you can think of it, we're looking at 2 books here, The Book Thief and Fahrenheit 451.
Is it the Dystopia episode?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was episode 6 technically. Seven was the first episode of Shakespeare.
Oh right, okay. So my topic for today is only you can prevent dystopias.
Dystopia Geekery number 2.
Yep. So when I was writing out my notes, originally I called it my topic, Dystopia 2. Escape from Dys.
Okay, that's actually much better than the idea I had in mind. Like I went the regular route and just decided, we're gonna put an electric boogaloo at the end of it. But nope, you went a completely original route, and I applaud you for it.
Okay, so first I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over what a dystopia is, just so that we can then discuss if you are in a dystopia, or you suspect that you are falling prey to a dystopia, or you suspect that you are in a dystopia, how do you escape? So,
time for a refresher course, yes. Ladies and gentlemen.
A refresher course, yes. All right, so this is going to be kind of like an episode of Man vs. Wild, Except it is man versus dystopia, which is also man versus wild if you think about it.
I missed that show.
Yep. Pretty disgusting, but it could save your life.
He
said when he, that was when he killed a snake, kept the skin, peed in the snake skin, and then drank the pee later.
Yep.
Pretty disgusting, but it could save your life.
Yep. I was about to say, I was like, that was probably one of the times he drank piss. But
Yep. Or also when he ate some random bug, he was like, oh, it's like an explosion of piss in my mouth.
God. Thank you, Discovery Channel.
Bear Grylls. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about what a dystopia is. And if you want more information about what a dystopia is, we're just going to go over it briefly. Go ahead and listen to our episode 6 about dystopias. We talked about 1984, we talked about Brave New World, and Never Let Me Go. Those were the ones that we kind of used as examples. I think I lent you 2 of those books. Did you ever read them?
I think... I know I read a little bit out of a couple of them.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember if I ever gave those books back to you.
You never did, no.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find those books and give them back to you.
That's all right. Yeah, don't worry about it, man. I am also just looking at another source that we have. So, also, if you're looking to learn more about dystopias, a lot of what I learned about dystopias comes from growing up with my mom, who I do the Spike Mix podcast with, and episode 11 of our podcast is called "Things Get a Little Dystopic," and we talk about what dystopias are like what qualifies as a dystopia and all of that. So,
there are bullet points.
Yeah, if you wanna get more information about what I'm going to give a summary of, head on over there. My mom is much smarter than Donald and me, so she'll do it.
It comes with the years.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Okay, so a dystopia is the word dystopia literally means bad place, and it results from people trying to create a utopia. And in our last episode that we did about dystopias, episode 6, Donald and I were talking about is dystopia and utopia, are they opposites? And I don't think that they are. A utopia is translated as no place, and it comes from the idea of believing that man is perfectible, which is, I think, a utopia. It's a utopia, no place. It's like nothing is going on. Like everything is at a sort of flat line, sort of.
It's the ultimate personification of stagnation.
Yes, exactly. There's no ups or downs. There's no room for thought or creativity. No room for the heights of happiness or the depths of sadness.
It's the worst kind of purgatory for artists like us.
Yeah, exactly. There's just this sort of status quo that you have to fit into, and for some that seems like perfection, but it's actually just a blank slate, like a nowhere land.
Nope, screw that. I'm out.
Yep. So it usually results from trying to make a utopia, and people make a utopia by taking one ideal that they think is the most important and implementing that to an extreme. So, let's see. I'm trying to think of an example of that, one of those extremes. Like in Brave New World, the extreme that they're going for is for... Very often, the extreme is for everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
Or at least content. So that's kind of one of the things that happens in Brave New World, is in order for people to be content with where they are, people are genetically engineered to fit their role in society. So they make the alphas who are smarter and healthier, and they are designed to be sort of on the top rung. And then there's also people that they create, the epsilons, who they are purposely made to be, physically and mentally stunted so that they will be happy doing work that is super menial but necessary, basically. It's like telling people what they're supposed to be like and then limiting them to that, as opposed to letting them figure out for themselves what they want to do with their life.
That actually reminds me of another dystopia novel that I remember reading back when I was a kid. I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous dystopia episode, but have you ever read the novel The Giver?
Yeah, we actually talked about The Giver in the last dystopia.
We did. Okay,
yep.
I do remember bringing that
up. Where
they
tell everybody when they're like 13 what their job is going to be for the rest of their life.
Yep, they basically designate everything like that. There's no like concept of like deep feelings or like attachment.
Yeah. So, for example, if there was basically, you say, okay, well, nobody wants to be a gravedigger right now, but we need them. So we're going to create people who are okay with being gravediggers. And it's kind of, I don't know. I hate that. That
a lot of dystopias, like, no matter like what extremes it goes to, it brings a lot of different ethical questions into like just terms of mainly like different like areas of morality.
Yeah.
Like a lot of dystopia stories are big cautionary morality tales.
Yeah.
Which areas of morality? That's the question.
Yep. Yeah. And there's always some sort of higher power monitoring those down below and making sure that everybody is following the rules, having the right thoughts, behaving in the right way, like buying the right products, supporting the right causes, caring about the right things. So,
damn you, Big Brother!
Big Brother. So limited information. Also, the people who are in charge, the sort of hierarchy of a dystopia. There's like an inner circle of people who they have the real information and they have the real knowledge and the real history, but they shove that under the rug and spin it a different way to make the masses submissive. And what do you
that description actually brought up a thing from like one of our more recent episodes when we were doing our review of The Boys.
Oh yeah,
that's a very dystopic world with that general mindset, because the corporation that supervises like the heroes in America has basically like controls all the information like that's spread to the like that is a perfect example.
Yeah, it's a dystopia. And then the biggest group of people in a dystopia is the oppressed masses. The sort of in 1984, the masses, the sheep, the cattle, or the childlike people who they're basically the ones who don't really care. I guess. They submit. They want life to be easy. So they're like, well, it's easier to just believe what Big Brother tells us and not have to think about it and decide for ourselves. I think some people, and I do this as well, where if you don't have an opinion and if you don't stand for something,
right,
you just follow what is being told to you by a higher power, you kind of shirk your responsibility in that way. And you can kind of say, well, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
You're not responsible for anything if you never made a choice, which is sometimes why people, they shuffle along in the herd, just to avoid culpability, I guess.
For those that don't know how that feels like, you kind of do feel it sometimes. It's like when you go through a painfully numbing like day of work and you just have to shut your mind off just to turn off all unnecessary thoughts just to like get through it, just like comply and everything.
Yeah.
Basically that, but that's basically your entire existence.
Yeah. It's easier and safer to just obey.
And that's kind of terrifying.
Yeah. Because if you're afraid of being wrong, or if you're afraid of being, it's easier to be a slave almost.
It's a very childlike mindset.
Yeah.
From
freedom is too hard, because in freedom you have to do things yourself, and you have to decide things for yourself, and in freedom you have to, like, what happens to you is on you. Mm-hmm. And for some people, that's too much. You want to stay a child forever, and always have Big Brother taking responsibility for you and taking care of you, even if you're not exactly free. At least you're not struggling. At least you're not in pain.
Yeah.
Like, that went off in a direction I wasn't expecting.
No, it's perfectly okay, because that pretty much personifies like what you were aiming at. So.
Yeah. And then there's another small group in a dystopia called they're like the rebels, the people who work subversively against the inner circle, sometimes within the inner circle itself, like Winston from 1984 actually works for the Ministry of Truth, which, ironically enough, basically lies about stuff, alters information from the past to make it seem like it's consistent with what Big Brother's saying now.
Right.
Another person kind of like that is the protagonist of Fahrenheit 451, Montag.
Yep.
He is a fireman, which basically means that in this world of Fahrenheit 451, the firemen, they don't put out fires. They create fires.
Complete opposite.
Yep, they create fires to burn books, basically. They'll get a call at night, and it says, "All right, we gotta go start a fire. There's reports of somebody who's been hoarding books," and they go and they have to burn the books up. Which, when you think about it, is kind of a call. It harkens to something that actually happened in our history, which we've talked about as an actual real dystopia before, Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah, the book burnings that happened.
Yeah, they would have
God.
book burnings. The Nazi Party would have the book burnings and stuff, which is why I also brought The Book Thief, because it's about a little girl in Nazi Germany who steals a book from a book burning, and about how dangerous that was and how it shaped her mind and just sort of made her into a rebel, So that's kind of what we're going to talk about here.
I actually have a really good example of something similar to that happened in another So the comic series V for Vendetta.
Yeah, you talked about that in the Dystopia episode also.
Yeah, I remember that talking about that.
Korra.
But with the Korra. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I see this is what happens when we talk about a subject that over a year ago. She already knows everything I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. It's scary.
I knew you were going to say it's scary.
You be quiet, Alexa. I don't know
Did
why.
she just say I knew at the same time that I did?
I think she did. Alexa is becoming Big Brother. Spread the word.
Throw that thing in the fire. Oh man!
I almost chucked my phone at the wall.
That was so scary. I said I knew you were gonna say that, and then Alexa was like, "I knew."
I knew that little SOB was becoming too self-aware.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about these two books. So,
all right. I've only read a couple of quotes from Fahrenheit 451, so I'm a little more familiar with that one.
Yeah, The Book Thief is one of my favorite books ever.
Okay,
it's very good. Okay, so let's start with Fahrenheit 451. I believe that Ray Bradbury, I think, actually lived through the World War II and everything. Let me see what year this was written. Yeah, this was written in 1951, so definitely he was there. I don't remember what his role was in World War II.
I'll look that up.
Yeah, but if you listen to the Splaying Nick's podcast, episode 11, I believe that my mom knows and that she mentioned it. But I forget, because that's the way I am.
Things happen.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm going to read some excerpts from Fahrenheit 451.
Yes.
And, okay, so, there is this... It'll become clear why I'm reading this in a little bit. So, Montag lives with his wife, who she has a media addiction, basically. Like, she always has her headphones in, listening to the radio. She has this parlor where 3 of the walls are television screens, and she's always watching some program or other.
Oh, God.
And, yeah, which kind of freaks me out, because that's kind of what our life is like right now. We literally have a little robot overlords that we carry around with us at all times, all of our screens.
While a TV is playing in the background, or we have like music or radio on or something like that. That's
I myself, I listen to podcasts at night when I'm falling asleep. I know what's going on here. I know that I am part of the machine in this way. But okay. But on his way to work, walking to work, Montag meets this little girl named Clarice, who she actually has thoughts, and she talks about the world. She notices people. She notices nature. When she goes home, they have dinner together, and they have conversations, her and her family. And this is completely weird to Montag. He doesn't understand it. And he leaves his conversation with this little girl kind of changed. So, I'm gonna read from the book now. Montag shook his head. He looked at a blank wall. The girl's face was there, really quite beautiful in memory. Astonishing, in fact. She had a very thin face, like the dial of a small clock seen faintly in a dark room in the middle of the night, when you waken to see the time and see the clock telling you the hour and the minute and the second, with a white silence and a glowing all-certainty and knowing what it has to tell you of the night passing swiftly on toward further darkness, but moving also toward a new sun. What? Asked Montag of that other self, the subconscious idiot that ran babbling at times, quite independent of will, habit, and conscience. He glanced back at the wall. How like a mirror, too, her face. Impossible, for how many people did you know that refracted your own light to you? People were more often... He searched for a simile, found one in his work. Torches, blazing away until they whiffed out. How rarely did other people's faces take of you and throw back to you your own expression, your own innermost trembling thought. What incredible power of identification this girl had. She was like the eager watcher of a marionette show, anticipating each flicker of an eyelid, each gesture of his hand, each flick of a finger, the moment before it began. How long had they walked together? 3 minutes? 5? Yet how large that time seemed now. How immense a figure she was on the stage before him. What a shadow she threw on the wall with her slender body. He felt that if his eye itched, she might blink, and if the muscles of his jaw stretched imperceptibly, she would yawn long before he would. Why, he thought, now that I think of it, she almost seems to be waiting for me there in the street so damned late at night. He opened the bedroom door. It was like coming into the cold marbled room of a mausoleum after the moon has set. Complete darkness, not a hint of the silver world outside, the windows tightly shut, the chamber a tomb world where no sound from the great city could penetrate. The room was not empty. He listened. The little mosquito-delicate dancing hum in the air, the electrical murmur of a hidden wasp snug in its special pink warm nest. The music was almost loud enough so he could follow the tune. He felt his smile slide away, melt, fold over and down on itself like a tallow skin, like the stuff of a fantastic candle burning too long and now collapsing and now blown out. Darkness. He was not happy. He was not happy. He said the words to himself. He recognized this as the true state of affairs. He wore his happiness like a mask, and the girl had run off across the lawn with the mask, and there was no way of going to knock on her door to ask for it back. So this girl had asked him if he was happy. And I don't think anyone had ever asked him that before. And he realized that he wasn't. Because he'd never thought about it before. Because that's what we do. We distract ourselves so that we don't have to think about whether we're happy or sad or anything, really. We don't have to think about what we are and who we are and what's wrong. And, like that ache in our soul. We don't have to think about it when we have Big Brother taking away everything that makes us think and everything that causes us pain.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, like how much of like a self-defense mechanism that is even today for so many people.
Yeah. I do it myself. I'm like, I come home from work and I am angry about something or sad about something. I'm like, well, I'm gonna just watch The Office. And that can be helpful sometimes. That can help. But if you're just constantly trying to distract yourself with something, you can't really face up to what's going on in your heart. And so that's sort of like a private dystopia when you're not able to confront what's going on with you without conflict and without struggle. There can't be victory or success. There's just stagnation and existence and just putting it off, shoving things away from your little cocoon that you've made for yourself.
Yeah.
If you've never come out of the cocoon, you're never going to become anything amazing. So that's where. True. Yeah.
That's actually a really good point. Like I remember when we were talking about dystopias last time. We never dived into the self, the self-proclaimed, not self-proclaimed, but the self-preserved dystopia that we hold for our own lives. Like the way we live, the habits, because anybody can make their own little dystopia, of their own little world.
Yeah, every person has the potential to be there. Everybody can be their own universe, and you have your own little dystopia or your own little paradise that you can create just in your solitude. Which,
and in just in a moment like that, when you get one little moment, just one, maybe like a simple question or anything that challenges everything. That flips that entire perception.
Yeah.
And that actually is happening a lot in this world today.
Yeah. I find myself personally, falling into that kind of trap where it's like I don't want to make a decision or take a side because I'm scared, basically,
Yep.
And there's so much information coming at you, and all of it claims to be true. And I think that we don't know what truth is anymore. It's so hard to identify that we'd rather not look for it. We'd rather just have somebody tell us what it is and then go back to our cocoon.
Pretty much, instead of the world in those books where it's just only certain areas of information facts are funneling to information. We live in an age where we have so much information, like you said, at the power of our fingertips.
Yeah.
Just a few clicks and a swipe, and we have unlimited knowledge at our fingertips.
Unlimited knowledge!
Unlimited knowledge!
And, that abundance is almost worse than having having very little that's reliable, I guess.
Because unless you can really handle that much information at once, if you don't pace yourself, your brain can overload and just snap, in that case, you need a decompressor.
Okay, yeah. And I just had an idea, and I'm writing it down really quick.
Go right ahead.
Okay, yeah.
And more often than not, that actually happens, a lot these days. I know a lot of people, whenever they see, a news article or something online, they immediately hop on it, read it, and then look further into it, and then just reply angrily and everything like that, and it looks like they're basically forgetting, what the original purpose was in the first place, but it's just, we have so much information available to us that if we're not careful with how we perceive it, if we don't give it a minute to just, sink in and just think about it and take it all in, and we're just jumping from branch to branch of information automatically.
Yeah.
We overexhaust ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It happens so much.
Yeah.
So much.
I think something that we can work on to help escape from our personal dystopias and help other people escape from their personal dystopias as well is a lot of people listen in order to respond. But I think that what's missing is that what we should be doing is listening in order to understand.
Yeah, that is...
And that kind of... Because basically, instead of just yelling at each other from our own, like, iron cells, we can come out and knock on the door of somebody else's and say, hey, tell me about where you are. And they'll tell you about where you are. And instead of saying, oh, well, your prison is not that bad. Look at mine over here. It's so much worse. Like, instead of doing that, perhaps we can help each other come out into the sun, into the green, you know?
And there are a lot of studies where basically compare it to that.
Yeah.
Like, different analogies and everything like that, but basically it boils down to the exact same thing. People listen to respond, and people don't listen to understand.
Yeah.
That's a norm of culture, and it's kind of sickening.
Yeah. I find myself, when I'm in a conversation or a social setting, and I'm talking to people, or listening to people talk even, I start to get frustrated and feel lonely sometimes. I'm like, why do I feel so lonely? And I listen to the conversation for a while, and I'm like, okay, so somebody's saying something about their life. They're saying, like, what's going on with them, and the next person who talks, the next thing they say is, oh, I had this experience. And no one's asking each other questions. It's never like, yes, tell me more. It's always, yes, here's something about me. You know?
Yeah.
So...
And that happens a lot, like, the more, like, if it was a one-on-one conversation, that can go differently, but...
Yeah.
Depending on how many people, like, you have in a group having a conversation like that, that's when things start to happen. Unless everyone's on the same page and listen to understand.
Yeah.
Like, that can be a different thing.
Yeah. I've got another analogy for that, actually. It's like if you're in an apartment building in a hallway, and everyone's standing in their doorways, and they're like saying stuff like, oh, hey, how are you? What's going on? Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing well, and I'm doing well, and so am I, and this is going on. Oh, what about this? Such a pain in the butt, you know, and nobody ever comes over to visit.
Yep.
It's never like, that's really interesting. I'm gonna come over and we can have a cup of coffee and talk about it. It's never like that. It's just like, oh, well.
Exactly.
Your life is interesting, I guess, but mine is more interesting.
Hey, 203, how you doing this morning? Doing great, 207. What's going on with you? Nothing much, just going out for my usual jog. Are we still out for dinner tonight? No, not really. No, thank you.
Yep. So, yeah, anyway, that was just a thought about life and conversation and just the art of conversation, of learning from each other.
Yes, there is an art to it, ladies and gentlemen, and honestly, it needs to be talked more.
All right, so I'm going to read from the book again.
Go ahead.
Some of my favorite conversations that we have here on this podcast are like reading something from a book and then talking about it. I love it.
You bring on some really great novels.
Oh, thank you.
I think the only one I really contributed that really was probably a good one was when we did the vampire episode with Dracula.
Oh man, yes.
I
loved reading that.
That's a good novel.
Okay, so here is from Fahrenheit 451. Here is we get to see what a fireman does in his job. Here.
All right.
So they get called to this woman's house because she has books. And they're going up the stairs, just destroying everything, putting it all in a pile to burn it, like in Nazi Germany, basically. Books bombarded his shoulders, his arms, his upturned face. a book lit almost obediently like a white pigeon in his hands, wings fluttering. In the dim, wavering light, a page hung open. It was like a snowy feather, the words delicately painted thereon. In all the rush and fervor, Montag had only an instant to read a line, but it blazed in his mind for the next minute as if stamped there with fiery steel. Time has fallen asleep in the afternoon sunshine. He dropped the book. Immediately another fell into his arms. Montag, up here! Montag's hand closed like a mouth, crushed the book with wild devotion, with an insanity of mindlessness to his chest. The men above were hurling shovelfuls of magazines into the dusty air. They fell like slaughtered birds, and the woman stood below like a small girl among the bodies. Montag had done nothing. His hand had done it all. His hand, with a brain of its own, with a conscience and a curiosity in each trembling finger, had turned thief. Now it plunged the book back under his arm, pressed it tight to sweating armpit, rushed out empty with a magician's flourish. Look here, innocent, look. He gazed, shaken, at that white hand. He held it way out as if he were far-sighted. He held it close as if he were blind. Montag! He jerked about. Don't stand there, idiot! The books lay like great mounds of fishes left to dry. The men danced and slipped and fell over them. Titles glittered their golden eyes, falling, gone. They pumped the cold fluid from the numeraled 451 tanks strapped to their shoulders. They coated each book. They pumped rooms full of it. They hurried downstairs, Montag staggering after them in the kerosene fumes. Come on, woman! The woman knelt among the books, touching the drenched leather and cardboard, reading the gilt titles with her fingers while her eyes accused Montag. You can't ever have my books, she said. You know the law, said Beatty. Where's your common sense? None of those books agree with each other. You've been locked up here for years with a regular damned Tower of Babel. Snap out of it. The people in those books never lived. Come on now. She shook her head. The whole house is going up, said Beatty. The men walked clumsily to the door. They glanced back at Montag, who stood near the woman. You're not leaving her here, he protested. She won't come. Force her, then. Beatty raised his hand, in which was concealed the igniter. We're due back at the house. Besides, these fanatics always try suicide. The pattern's familiar. Montag placed his hand on the woman's elbow. You can come with me. No, she said. Thank you anyway. I'm counting to 10, said Beatty. 1, 2... Please, said Montag. Go on, said the woman. 3, 4... Here, Montag pulled at the woman. The woman replied quietly. I want to stay here. You can stop counting. She opened the fingers of one hand slightly, and in the palm of the hand was a single slender object, an ordinary kitchen match. The sight of it rushed the men out and down away from the house. Go on, said the woman, and Montag felt himself back away and away out the door, after Beatty, down the steps, across the lawn, where the path of kerosene lay like the track of some evil snail. On the front porch where she had come to weigh them quietly with her eyes, her quietness a condemnation, the woman stood motionless. Beatty flicked his fingers to spark the kerosene. It was too late. The woman on the porch reached out with contempt to them all and struck the kitchen match against the railing. People ran out of the houses all down the street. What say you to that?
I'm clutching my complete works of William Shakespeare very tightly.
Uh-huh. Why so?
Because, we're not burning it.
Nope.
Nope. This is a big damn book.
Let me see.
Full of all of Shakespeare's works, all of his plays, all of his sonnets.
Ooh, you've got the RSC version.
Yep, it was a requirement in college, and I've kept it ever since.
Oh man, that's awesome. I love it. What's this? Vanguard.
Oh. Oh yeah, I was using that as a bookmark.
Cool, yeah. Oh man.
Anyway.
Okay, so yeah, that scene really gets me, because this woman, she would rather burn than lose her books, which
that's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In a world like that is very powerful.
Yeah, this is also the scene where we first see Montag stealing a book. Like, he's been doing this for a while, and he doesn't really quite know why. He just knows that even though this world says that everyone should be happy, without all this knowledge and without books, without education, they're saying they should all be happy. But he knows he's not happy. And so he starts to try and collect things that are forbidden. So these books are, you're not allowed to have books. And he says, maybe if I devour these things that I'm not allowed to have, maybe then I'll be happy. And I think as this continues, sort of like the point isn't necessarily to be happy. The point is to be free.
Right. I don't know why, but it's always like in dystopia stories, always a common thing. Like the forbidden is always like it's always the taboo that always is the lure, like the intrigue that really gets like the conversation going. Like in Fahrenheit 451, it was the books. Like that was the lure.
Yeah.
In The Giver, it was like the feeling of emotion.
Emotions, history, yeah.
Emotion, history,
like remembering the past, right?
Yeah, exactly, and the sense of music and color and everything like that. Like
everything that makes the world. Yeah, everything that makes the world colorful. But like our human souls are not monochromatic, and they're not meant to be. And there's always going to be discontent and just, I guess, sterility in life if you're not allowed to experience the highs and the lows, I guess. Like
right.
You can't have one without the other. And trying to create a perfect place where everything is just on that baseline, the status quo, that's not really life. Sure, you're content, but you're not happy, you know?
You're alive, but you're not living.
Yeah, you can't know one thing without being acquainted with its opposite, you know? Like, there's no such thing as good if you don't know what evil is, and there's no such thing as happiness if you don't know what misery is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a cause and an effect. Two sides of the same coin. Like that is a constant in pretty much everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you try to keep it on one side, there's a reason why balance is personified in scales. You can't put all of the good on one side and expect everything to equal out.
Yeah. So, let's look at The Book Thief and some similarities between it and Fahrenheit 451. So, The Book Thief is based off of a time in history. It starts in 1939, Nazi Germany.
Okay, so at the beginning when like all this, oh, all right,
it's about a little German girl who she discovers the beauty of books in an age where books are being burned.
Unless it's specifically mandated by the government, in which case that is ugly in and of itself.
Yeah. So, where is it? Okay, so I'm going to read you a little bit from it. So this is at a book burning that she has to be present at because back then kids in Germany were required to be part of the Hitler Youth.
Clutching on to Shakespeare with all my might right now.
All right, here we go. By 4:30, the air had cooled considerably. People joked that they needed warming up. That's all this trash is good for anyway. Carts were used to wheel it all in. It was dumped in the middle of the town square and doused with something sweet. Books and paper and other material would slide or tumble down, only to be thrown back onto the pile. From further away, it looked like something volcanic, or something grotesque and alien that had somehow landed miraculously in the middle of town and needed to be snuffed out. The applied smell leaned toward the crowd, who were kept at a good distance. They were well in excess of 1,000 people, on the ground, on the town hall steps, on the rooftops that surrounded the square. Silence was requested by a man on a podium. His uniform was shiny brown. The iron was practically still on it. The silence began. His first words, Heil Hitler. His first action, the salute to the Führer. Today is a beautiful day, he continued. Not only is it our great leader's birthday, but we also stop our enemies once again. We stop them reaching into our minds. We put an end to the disease that has been spread through Germany for the last 20 years. It is no more. He was performing now what is called a Schreierei, a consummate exhibition of passionate shouting, warning the crowd to be watchful, to be vigilant, to seek out and destroy the evil machinations plotting to infect the motherland with its deplorable ways. So, there's this speech going on right before the book burning, basically saying that there's this disease that's spreading through Germany, this disease is the words and the ideas in these books, which kind of brings me back to the what they said to that lady about her books. In the Fahrenheit 451, none of these books agree with each other. You've been locked up here for years with the regular damned Tower of Babel, and I don't know. I like to think about that. Like, what did they mean by that? None of these books agree with each other, and I think that what that means is that in books, people are being human, and people are being free to think what they want to think and say what they want to say.
Right.
But in these dystopias, the higher ups, the inner circle, that can't be allowed to happen. You can't be allowed to have your own thoughts. Mm-hmm. It's forbidden. Verboten.
It's amazing how much over censorship plays such a big damn role.
Yeah, in dystopia that is what happens. Limitations of knowledge. People who are educated or intelligent, they get disappeared. If they won't submit, they end up getting. No one knows what happened to them. Like this girl that Montag was talking to in Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. She just stops showing up one day. He walks home from work every day, and she's there, out on the lawn playing or something, and then one day she's just not there anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. So, the girl steals a book. This girl, Liesel. She wandered toward the mountain of ash. It sat like a magnet, like a freak, irresistible to the eyes, similar to the road of yellow stars. As with her previous urge to see the mound's ignition, she could not look away. All alone, she didn't have the discipline to keep a safe distance. It sucked her toward it, and she began to make her way around. Above her, the sky was completing its routine of darkening, but far away, over the mountain's shoulder, there was a dull trace of light. "Pass auf, Kind," a uniform said to her at one point. "Look out, child," as he shoveled some more ash onto a cart. Closer to the town hall, under a light, some shadows stood and talked, most likely exulting in the success of the fire. From Liesel's position, their voices were only sounds, not words at all. For a few minutes, she watched the men shoveling up the pile, and at first making it smaller at the sides to allow more of it to collapse. They came back and forth from a truck, and after 3 return trips, when the heap was reduced near to the bottom, a small section of living material slipped from inside the ash. Perhaps they were damp. Perhaps the fire didn't burn long enough to fully reach the depth where they sat. Whatever the reason, they were huddled among the ashes, shaken, survivors. 3 books. Liesel spoke softly as she looked at the backs of the men. The heat was still strong enough to warm her when she stood at the foot of the ash heap. When she reached her hand in, she was bitten, but on the second attempt she made sure she was fast enough. She latched on to the closest of the books. It was hot, but it was also wet, burned only at the edges, but otherwise unhurt. It was blue. The cover felt like it was woven with hundreds of tightly drawn strings and clamped down. Red letters were pressed into those fibers. Smoke lifted from the cover as she juggled it and hurried away. Her head was pulled down, and the sick beauty of nerves proved more ghastly with each stride. There were 14 steps till the voice. It propped itself up behind her. "Hey!" That was when she nearly ran back and tossed the book onto the mound, but she was unable. The only movement at her disposal was the act of turning. "There are some things here that didn't burn." It was one of the cleanup men. He was not facing the girl, but rather the people standing by the town hall. "Well, burn them again," came the reply, "and watch them burn." Okay. So, she rescues this book and runs off with it. And what I think is really cool is...
Good girl.
Yeah, just like... Even though the book, like... The funny thing about it, the imagery here, like... It was still hot when she picked it up.
Oh,
like,
as you were talking, I was painting the picture in my mind.
Yeah, and you like... And just like gathering this information and giving yourself an opportunity to collect knowledge and to have free thoughts and to have freedom. It's painful. It'll sting you. It'll burn.
How old was this girl?
12?
That is... Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, honestly, the age played an important part in that because, like, early teens, like, going into teenage years, like, honestly is when, like, the thirst for knowledge is probably at its most potent in a human life. Like, you still have that childlike wonder and curiosity, but you're maturing into, like, what your mindset will be for a good majority of your life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's a really nice touch. I don't know why. I always like it when age appropriate stuff like that usually plays an important part of like why a character does an action like that.
Oh yeah, and I have a little thing that I want to play for you because it's a little thing that we were talking about. We were talking about Fahrenheit 451 last month on the Splankniks podcast, and I just think that my mom says it a lot better than I would. So there's this little sound bite that I'm going to play, and hopefully it'll come across. It's kind of about why books are important, and why also having time to process that information is important also. Because we've got so much information coming into us all the time that we don't have really time to develop it and have thoughts.
Okay.
So I'm going to play this for you.
If you want to hold it up closer to the mic, then
sure. Yeah. Okay.
About maybe right here.
Here-ish?
Should be,
Okay.
Here should be fine.
Okay. The first thing that we need is quality of information, quality, detail, infinite care, texture, the things that were once in books. And then leisure, which doesn't just mean off hours or time off work or random free time, but true leisure, time to think and reflect. And the world in this dystopia is a constant barrage of sounds and words and images and things. You're not even given any opportunity to think about, let alone refute, because it's just constantly coming at you. And then the third is the right to carry out actions based on what we learned from the interaction of the first two. So, fascinating. Mm-hmm.
So, I thought I would play that because I don't think that my mom and I are going to sue us.
No, that's perfectly okay. And honestly, that's a very great standpoint to bring up. Like, yeah, that's true. Like, leisure is just like our moment of reprieve in order to like collect ourselves in order to. And when we're being barraged by that much knowledge, we don't have that moment of reprieve. Yeah.
So, I think that the thing that makes human beings the most dangerous is our ability to think. And if we don't have, if higher ups get rid of things for us to think about, or get rid of giving us the time and the opportunity to think about something, they've limited us. They can control us if we can't think.
The old saying, knowledge is power, is true. But knowledge can also be a double-edged sword.
Absolutely, yeah. So, let's go, let's finish this up here a little bit. How to prevent a dystopia. So, in a dystopia, we're not allowed to think or feel. We're not allowed to have opinions. And some things that we can do. Collect knowledge, records, memory. read books, go to a bookstore, ask your great-granddad what it was like to fight in the war, get family stories, pass things on to your children, own your mistakes, tell stories. I think that there's this quote from Star Wars, actually, that I'm going to quote. It's one of my favorites. It's from...
Bring it.
I think it's from the Last Jedi. When Luke burns the tree with the sacred Jedi text.
When he's about to, and then Yoda's the one that brings down the lightning and burns the old text.
It's the sacred Jedi texts. He's like, Peter's they were not.
Yep.
But
probably one of the best scenes in that film.
Oh my gosh, yes. And there's a line that Yoda says about Rey, who is like the next generation of Jedi after Luke. Mm-hmm. And what he says is, we are what they grow beyond. So a lot of people in higher generations, you get this all the time. Steins Gate. Her dad hated her because she had grown beyond him. She was a improvement of him, and really that's what we should want. We should want our children to be better than us. We want them to learn from our mistakes. But instead, older generations, they tend to just bury their mistakes because they're ashamed. And I think that we should own our shame and tell our children about our mistakes so that they don't repeat it.
Oh, and that happens so much in today's society.
I know, exactly. And
it's become the norm in our society today, and it does make me sick at times.
So own your mistakes. Tell your children what you did wrong so that they can do the right thing and not repeat the same stupid stuff that you did. And there's a last quote from Fahrenheit 451 that I'm going to share, and then I'll be done. I promise.
It's fine.
Okay.
I'm enjoying listening.
Yeah. So Montag meets this guy named Granger, who he doesn't live in the city. He lives outside of it. He's part of this sort of like rebel coalition of people who they actually have books memorized in their heads.
So kind of like how I am when it comes to television and shows and all that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
I like this guy already.
So, Granger looked into the fire. Phoenix. What? There was a silly damn bird called a phoenix, back before Christ. Every few hundred years he built a pyre and burned himself up. He must have been first cousin to man, but every time he burnt himself up, he sprang out of the ashes. He got himself born all over again. And it looks like we're doing the same thing, over and over. But we've got one damn thing the Phoenix never had. We know the damn silly thing we just did. We know all the damn silly things we've done for 1,000 years, and as long as we know that, and we always have it around where we can see it, someday we'll stop making the goddamn funeral pyres and jumping into the middle of them. We pick up a few more people that remember every generation.
Yep. Nice. That is a powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
So freaking true.
I'm so pleased.
I'm proud of you. I am happy you brought this in. This was really good.
Not bad for rolling out of bed at 10 o'clock this morning and deciding what to talk about today, huh?
Hey, it was good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, honestly, like, yep. We gotta build this world for the better. Like, stop the ignorance.
Yep.
Like, jeez Louise.
Keeping people ignorant doesn't protect you.
Revolution will happen when that happens.
Revolution.
To the revolution. Sorry, I'm on the Hamilton kick again.
Oh man. Yeah.
But Yeah, all right. Hannah, thank you so much for sharing this with us.
You're welcome.
I've heard...
Thank you for listening.
Of course, anytime.
This is my jam. This is my passion.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Anything else to add to that, or are you
Nope. The Phoenix quote was my last thing.
I love that quote. I'm going to be pondering on that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, guys, I believe it is time we sign off. Thank you so much again for listening to the General Geekery Podcast, our second iteration on Dystopias.
Yep.
If you guys like what you listen to, make sure to follow us on social media at General Geekery on Instagram and at Gen Geek Podcast on Twitter and Facebook. You guys can also listen to us wherever podcasts can be found. We're on Spotify, we're on Spreaker, Stitcher. Still working on Apple Podcasts. We should be able to get that up pretty soon. Still working on it. I don't know why Apple Podcasts hates me for some reason. But that's another story. You guys can also listen to us if you don't have any access to any of those streaming platforms. We are available on my personal YouTube channel at Anime Rev Productions. So you guys can check us out there if you don't have any access to the other streaming platforms as I described it. Just waiting for this plane to fly overhead. This is what happens when I'm within a couple of miles distance living near an airport.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're past. So, Hannah, where can they find you at?
Well, you can find me rolling dice with my party every Monday at 7:30 Central at twitch.tv/loadeddiceadventures. We are a Twitch affiliate now. If you have Amazon Prime, you have a free Twitch Prime subscription every month. If you feel like supporting artists or gamers in the Milwaukee area who have fun entertaining you every Monday, go ahead and give us a subscription. It won't cost you anything if you already have Amazon Prime. So much for my shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
You can also check out the Splankniks podcast, which I do with my mom, where we talk about art, culture, and tabletop gaming, all from the perspective of two different generations of nerds. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Pythian Legume.
Yes. And as for me, guys, you can follow me on social media on Instagram and Twitter at RyuzakiMK7. And you guys can also check me out on twitch.tv at RyuzakiMK7 as well. I am also a Twitch affiliate. I play a lot of RPGs and other genres of games in between. Mostly RPGs. I enjoy doing on-the-spot voice acting for some characters just because it's a lot of fun and I love hanging out with the chat room. I'm nearly at 200 200 followers as of the recording of this episode. Hopefully I'll pass that benchmark soon.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. I'm praying. Please. But, yeah. So, yeah, if you guys like any of that, go check us out on all those social media links. This has been episode 42 of the General Geekery Podcast, our second edition about dystopias. Thank you again, Hannah, for
You're welcome.
sharing us with your knowledge.
Oh, damn. Episode 42, we should have talked about hitchhikers.
Ugh! That's gonna have to be a future episode.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I gotta rebrush on hitchhikers before we start talking about
We can call it
that.
episode 42, part 2. We could call it definitely. We could be like episode 57. Definitely, actually episode 42.
Okay, well, I'll make sure we keep that in mind. But until next time, guys. For Hannah Kubiak, I'm Donald Kaczynski, and always remember, guys, keep each other safe, be respectful, listen, and be mindful. And
read books.
Read books as well. Plenty of books. We're still in pandemic right now. Some people are still in quarantine. Read to your heart's content, but always, most importantly, keep your geek on.
Always.
Clink clink.
Clink clink.
Later, guys.